Well, here we are. Here we are once again for the fourth time since 2013. For the third time since 2018. The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be taking on the Boston Bruins in the first round of the playoffs. First of all, I think we should recap just to establish why we have this much trauma, because some of you might not understand. Number one, 2013, the Toronto Maple Leafs make the playoffs for the first time in 9 years. We were really stoked on that team and ignored things like they get outshot into oblivion absolutely every game because they had high-flying goal scorers like Phil Kessel and James Van Riemsdyk and Joffrey Lupul. They would punch your lights out. Fraser McLaren and Colton Orr and Mark Fraser, they were tough and they were fun and they never had the puck. But when they did, it went in and they got stomped by Boston. It was so bad. They were down 3-1. And then James Reimer rises like a phoenix from the ashes and forces a game 7. They're up 4-1. Cody Franzen, by the way, had 2 goals in that game 7 as a defenseman. We all forget about that. Phil Kessel had a huge game 7. We all forget about that because the Boston Bruins came back and erased a 3-goal deficit in the third period of a game 7 for the first time in National Hockey League history. And the Boston Bruins won that series. They advanced to the Stanley Cup final before blowing it themselves. So, you can take some solace in that. 2018. Gosh, I hate reruns. Leafs are down 3-1 in the series. Patrice Bergeron was injured in game 4. In Toronto, the Leafs had no excuse to lose that one. I was there and I'm still mad about it, but it's okay because once again, they force game 7. Once again, they go into the third period with a game 7 lead. And speaking of erased performances, just like Cody Franzen in 2013, do you remember the shorthanded goal that Kasperi Kapanen scored where he dangled the Bruins out of their jocks? You do now because I brought it up, but you probably forgot because they lost. 2019. Oh, 2019. Game 1, Mitch Marner, penalty shot, goal. Beautiful. I just realized I haven't even mentioned the Nazem Kadri suspensions. He got suspended again in this one. But the Leafs go into game 5 and win the thing. It's a tight one, but they win it. It ended up being the game that saved Mike Babcock's job. Oh, God! And the Leafs have an opportunity to wrap this thing up in 6 at home. And they put on probably their worst defensive performance of the playoffs, and the Bruins force 7. And that is when the Leafs decided to just play their overall worst game of the entire playoffs before getting eliminated again. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why we have trust issues. Look, Toronto Maple Leafs are a team that I really like. I've grown to love over this season. I mean, I've always loved the Leafs, but I love the way they're built. The beginning of the season, all their free agent signings, all their new guys, they weren't working out. It was the same old Leafs. Yeah, they were like a little tougher, but not really. And it was still the core 4 having to heave most of the load. As the season progressed, Ilya Samsonov comes back. Tyler Bertuzzi is a factor. Max Domi is a factor to the point where they are on the top line with Auston Matthews, to the point where you can spread things out. Bertuzzi, Matthews, Domi. Ooh. Then you get Marner with Tavares and this guy named Bobby McMahon who didn't even start the season on the team. He got waived and now he's a factor. Ooh. Third line, William Nylander, Pontus Holmberg out of nowhere. And that's where things get a little, we don't know what's going on. Ryan Reeves, factor. Different kind of factor, but factor. Decor, still not very good, but they're mean at very least, and murder becomes legal tomorrow. Honestly, there isn't much reason to not like the way that this Toronto Maple Leafs team is constructed. Like looking at every other team in the league, there are flaws. Now you go and look at the Boston Bruins on paper. Hear me when I say this. On paper, there is no reason for the Leafs to lose this series. Like, absolutely not. They stomp the Bruins. They have better talent than them in every category. They have David Pastrnak, and the Leafs still have a better goal scorer. The only place where you could, well, it's a pretty significant place, where you could say the Bruins have the Leafs outmatched. Goaltending? Yeah, they have better goaltending. And I don't even know about defense on the whole, but definitely the top pair of McAvoy and Lindholm, who are going to be locked onto Matthews. And yet, how has the season series gone? They've played 4 games against each other. The Leafs have won none of them. The Bruins won all of them, but they needed overtime twice. Bruins played a lot of overtime games this season. Leafs can't really judge them for that on account of so did they. To me, and a lot of you are going to be terrified by what I'm about to say next, This series is going to come down to coaching. Jim Montgomery won the Jack Adams Trophy last year, and this year he has a far worse team, honestly, on paper. They had Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci. They don't have either of those guys, and he somehow took a top two of Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha and almost won the division. In fact, they could have won the division, but I'm convinced they lost it on purpose so that they could play the Leafs because they match up so well against them. Listen, if the Leafs lose in the first round this year, a lot of changes are going to happen. Brendan Shanahan, as the president, he probably gets fired. At least one of the core four, they're probably gone. A lot of people have been talking about Sheldon Keefe's job all season long, and I haven't wanted to buy into it, especially with the fact that the Leafs have gotten better as the season has gone. But as an NHL coach, as a coach of any sport at any level, you can only win with the weapons you have. The Leafs have better weapons, way better weapons. Why does this team in black and gold in Boston keep having their number? It's not about Sheldon Keefe being a bad coach, but if this Toronto Maple Leafs team cannot do it with Sheldon Keefe in the first round this year, at some point you have to ask yourself if you can do better. If this is a fit. If you're tired of watching your team win a maximum of 5 playoff games when you need 16 to win the Stanley Cup. Now, you win the series? Look around the league. You should be able to beat anybody. Oh, Steve, you said that last year with Tampa. No, different. Yes, Tampa was coming off of 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, but if Tampa looked tired last year, it's because they were coming off of 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. The Boston Bruins should be fresh as a daisy on account of the Leafs made it to the second round last year. They didn't. Although we share that bond of losing to the same team. I know I'm doom, I'm gloom, I'm just terrified about how this series is going to go. It's going to be so tedious on social media. Oh my God. The officiating always finds a way to get worse. But the light at the end of the tunnel is if they pull this off in 4, 5, 6, or 7 does not matter. Where does it go from there? So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. I'm in the SDPN studios. Follow SDPN, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Go over there and click like and subscribe on everything that you see. We are the place to follow the Stanley Cup playoffs. If you don't know, now you know.
Leafs, Boston Bruins.